This is a tutorial on creating a sitemap. It's using Illustrator CC and Photoshop CC. You can use either piece of software. So we're in Illustrator. I have my toolbar set to double. Some of the windows I'll be using will be character, which you can get from window, type, character. Also the Pathfinder we'll be using, and we'll be using some of the tools in the toolbar. First tool we're going to use is the rectangle shape tools. The first rectangle I'm going to create is going to represent the actual home page, because everything revolves around the home page. Everything's connected to the home page. And I'm going to use the rounded rectangle for that. One thing about the rounded rectangle tool is when you're pulling the rectangle, you have the up and down arrows on your keyboard. You can make this go all the way right into a circle. You know, if you really want to customize, or a square, if you really want to customize. So there's my shape, and what I'm going to do next is come over to the, I don't want white for the center color. I'll take some type of a color like that. So if I want to put an outline on, come up here, make sure it's selected. That always helps. And increase the size, say to 4. Now I have this icon could represent my home page. Now if I wanted to give it like a little bit of a 3D effect on a Mac, I'd be using a modifier key, which on a Mac could be Option, and I just grab it and pull it and it makes a copy. I'm not exactly sure what the modifier key is on a PC, but you can always just go up to Edit, Copy, and Edit, Paste up here. I'll do the keyboard commands. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to make this a ghosted image in the background is I'm going to come up to Window, go to Transparency, open up that window, pull it over here, now that's on top. I don't want it on top, I want it behind. So Object, Arrange, send to the back. Now that's more like what I wanted. Now I just grab that and do the exact same thing for copying. So what's missing now would really be text and lines connecting. So here's a line segment tool. It's at 4 points up here. I can keep it with this color, which is the outline color. And here's my connections. A little sloppy. So the other thing that is really good about Illustrator is that you can use the Pathfinder tool to make your own shapes. So say if I wanted to create some type of a shape, what I'm going to do is get rid of that red color. Rectangle tool, you can only do this with 2 shapes. And you have to have them both selected when you're using the Pathfinder tool. And this is really, really handy. So you come up to the Pathfinder tool and you see, you know, that's meshing. You can tell by looking at the actual icon. Go backwards. You know, the icon's going to tell you what it does just by looking at it. So you can make some, you know, customized type shapes. And you can see here with what it's doing here, how this would work, you know, with a logo or something. The Pathfinder tool is a great tool to do like a negative, positive type logo. But I wouldn't really use that for, you know, in this type of a case. I probably might make something that looked more like this. Some type of an icon that's going to represent something that's within the navigational scheme. What you might do with these different shapes is have some, maybe make some type of a really light box and have almost like a key to what, using the square rectangle, to what the shapes are, what they mean, what they represent. So the other part, which I haven't done yet, would be adding text. And that's a good enough typeface. make sure it's on top, and it is. If it was on the underneath and I couldn't see it, I would just come up to Object, Arrange, Bring to the Front. If I do Send to the Back, that's what I was hoping it wouldn't be. If I get that, I'd do Bring to the Front, and I have it. So I'd do the same thing for the other pages. Or now here's another thing you could do. You could shear it, maybe to put a little perspective in it. Shear tool. Instead of doing a horizontal orientation, you could just come over here to rotate and decide you want to do a vertical. Obviously, you'd have to change the text. So now we're off to Photoshop. Over here we have basically pretty much the same, a similar type setup. Same toolbar, double, single. We can also pull, but we can't adjust the edges like we had on the other with a rounded rectangle. So if I just pull a square here, I come up to the top. Here's my color. Now, come up to the Layers palette and you see your rectangle. So what you can do is come down to the bottom of the Layers palette and you see the FX, Special Effects. Remember, we made a copy in Illustrator. Well, here you can do a drop shadow and get a fine-tuning panel right here. See what you see right here? And it actually looks a little better. So you see multiply. I usually put that on normal, 100%. Figure out what you want how you want it to fall. So then again, now, instead of going and I'm coming back up here to the selection tool, instead of going and creating the same thing all over, I'm going to copy this. But to copy this, I'm going to stay right in the Layers palette. So what I'm going to do is just select that, pull it down to this icon, which means that you're making a copy. So see, I just made a copy here. So now I just come to the make another copy. So now you want to put text in. I think that's going to be a little bit too big. We have our character open right here, and if you don't see it, again, it's going to be Window, Character. And this is always, if you're in Photoshop, a really good thing. And I notice that I have -50, so those are pulled together a little bit more than they should be. I'm going to bring it to 0. I have to select everything first. Bring it to 0. You see it pulls apart. And you have all your fine-tuning here for your text. And pull that. Notice in the Layers palette it's on top. If it's down here, you're not going to see it. Or if it's down here, it's going to disappear because it went below it. Again, here's your line tool. And, it's pretty much the same type of a setup that you had with Illustrator. So with that, you can do a lot of fine-tuning, make different types of shapes here. You can't merge the shapes the same way you can in Illustrator, but you still have, other options available to you. So what you're doing is just making a navigational scheme for your website here. So hopefully that's going to help. Thanks. Bye.